Is your HOA always this fair when a water suspension notice slaps your front door and the faucet answers with a hollow click? Still, they didn't just conserve, they blocked drinking water, slapped threats on mailboxes, and told neighbors water was now a privilege for the obedient. Then we opened the county utility permit scanner, beep fluorescent glare on my dad's signature, and saw the line that proved their shutoff broke the deal they signed. Anyway, next week, while fines stack and HOA offices stay quiet, I'll show you how one dry faucet started everything. The first thing I noticed wasn't the heat. It was the notice taped dead center on my front door. HOA Water Suspension Notice. Filed 03:17 p.m. The Crestview Ridge logo sat above the bold text, smug as ever. I ran a finger along the tape, feeling how the sun had already baked it into the wood. 15 months overseas back home, less than a minute, and the HOA had already reached inside my house before I did. I pushed the door open. The hinges groaned like they hadn't been used since spring. The air inside smelled like stale coffee and sun-cooked pine, the byproduct of a summer nobody watered anything in. I headed straight for the kitchen sink. "Come on," I muttered, turning the faucet. A hollow click, then nothing. Not a cough, not a sputter, just silence. I opened it all the way until the handle squealed. Still nothing. "Dad," I called. "In here?" Tom answered from the living room. He stood slowly bracing himself on the arm of his old armchair, then walked toward me with that steady, slow step of a man who measured everything before speaking. "You forget to pay the bill while I was gone?" I asked. "No," he said. "Why?" "Because we don't have water." He stopped beside me and twisted the faucet himself like maybe I hadn't turned it right. When it stayed dry, he looked at me, really looked. "Show me the rest," he said. We checked the bathroom laundry nook outdoor spigot. Every tap was dead. The whole house felt like it had been drained from the inside out. Outside, the heat hit us like we'd opened an oven. Through the kitchen window, the radio picked up an emergency broadcast tone before the announcer's voice came on. 2023, driest year since 2015. County urges conservation. Tom shook his head. A drought doesn't give them a license to play sheriff. We followed the side yard path to the master valve. That's when I saw the bright orange tag hanging like a flare. Crestview Ridge, HOA. Water service, suspension. Time stamped 03:17 p.m. My jaw tightened. "You seeing this?" Tom leaned down. "They put their tag on our valve," he said. "They don't own this pipe. The county does." "They didn't just tag it," I said. "They shut it." He straightened up, eyes narrowing. I could tell he wasn't surprised, just disappointed in a way that meant this would get worse before it got better. Back inside, he went straight to the hall closet. "Sit down," he said. He climbed up on the step stool, grabbed a fat blue binder, and set it on the kitchen table with a thud that sent dust floating off the cover. Crestview Utility Permit, 2001. "You kept this?" I asked. He didn't answer, just flipped it open to a tab labeled Conditions. The pages were yellow around the edges, but still crisp where the county seal was stamped. There. He tapped a paragraph. I read it quietly at first, then aloud. "Under no circumstances shall the association suspend potable water service as an enforcement tool for covenant or bylaw compliance." Underneath the clause was a signature in thick black ink. Thomas J. Alvarez, Mayor. My father. "You wrote this?" I asked. "Chaired the meeting," he said. "Insisted on that line. They wanted authority over utilities. We said no. County kept water. HOA keeps their hands off the valve." "So, what changed?" I asked. "Because the tag outside says they think otherwise." Tom rubbed his thumb over the edge of the page. "If this clause still stands, and it should, then what they did is not enforcement. It's overreach." I pulled out my phone and dialed the county water hotline. It rang twice, then clicked. "Pine Mesa County Utilities," a man answered. "How can I help?" "This is Mark Alvarez," I said. "My taps are bone dry. There's a Crestview Ridge tag on my valve. I need to know if the county shut off my service." "We did not shut off your service," he said firmly. "Your account is current and active. If you have no water, the obstruction isn't from us. County water is live to my meter." "Yes, sir. Full pressure." "That's what I needed to hear," I said, and hung up. I looked at Tom. "County's clean." He nodded. Then the HOA just dug their own hole. I grabbed the HOA packet and called the number on the notice. After a minute of bad hold music, a man answered. "This is Glen Holcomb, Crestview Ridge, HOA." "Why is my water off?" I asked. "There were violations on your property," he said smoothly. "Non-compliant items." The board voted to encourage compliance. "By cutting drinking water, there are drought conditions," he said. "Everyone must do their part." "You don't have authority to shut off water," I said. "I'm looking at the 2001 county permit. That document is outdated," he said. "We've expanded our enforcement tools." I felt heat rise in my chest. "County says my line is live. You're the choke point." A pause. "Then, you'll get water back when you comply." He hung up. The kitchen felt too quiet. Tom closed the binder. "If that clause still stands," he said, "they just crossed the line." I nodded once. "Then we don't plead," I said. "We document." And right then, the dry faucet behind us felt heavier than a loaded gun. Sam sat across from me in the corner booth at the Pine Mesa Diner, staring into his glass like it owed him water. "They cut mine too," he said, voice low. HOA said water's a privilege now. The vinyl under us was cracked. A tired box fan rattled near the kitchen pass. Through the window I could see the post office across the street, blue paint faded. My throat felt drier just listening to him. "When did yours go off?" I asked. "Yesterday," Sam said. "Came home from a double shift, turned the tap, got air. Same orange tag on my valve, same notice on the door, non-compliant fence trash can visible from street unpaid fees." Glenn called later and said, quote, "Water is a privilege tied to community standards." Tom sat beside me, both hands around a chipped mug. He hadn't touched his coffee. "They mentioned the county?" he asked. Sam shook his head. "No, just board decision. Said I'd get service back when I showed I was committed to our shared vision." The waitress topped off our mugs and moved on. Luis slid into the booth opposite, setting a file folder on the table. "I heard water's a privilege. Before I sat down," he said. "That what we're calling survival now?" "Sam's dry too," I said. "Same Crestview tag. County says the line's live. HOA's choking it." Luis raised his brows. "You still have that permit from '01? Tom nudged the blue binder toward him. "Never left my house," he said. Luis flipped it open to the page Tom had marked. He put on his glasses and read. "Under no circumstances shall the association suspend potable water service as an enforcement tool," he read. "Who's holding the original of this county water board," should Tom said, "unless somebody misplaced it. Then we don't just wave a copy," Luis said. "We make them pull theirs. If it matches, they've got a problem." I pulled a rubber-banded stack of mail from my bag and set it between the cups. Crestview logos stared up like little warning signs. "These are mine," I said. "Last year and change. We opened them right there. Late fees, courtesy notices, friendly reminders." One envelope held a printed drought bulletin on heavier paper, Glenn's name at the bottom. Halfway down the page, a line jumped out. "Read that," I said, sliding it to Luis. He bent closer. "Residents who feel a few dry days will be more inclined to take our compliance schedule seriously." He looked up. "That's not conservation," he said. "That's pressure." He put it in writing. In the next booth, a baseball cap tilted our way. "You boys talking Crestview?" Jordan asked, leaning back enough to see us. Local reporter always nearby when trouble ripened. Tom sighed. "You're going to hear it at the post office board anyway," he said. "Might as well hear it straight." Jordan slid in next to Luis and pulled out a pocket notebook. "So, county keeps the taps open, HOA closes valves and calls it community spirit," he said. "That's it," I said. "County says we're paid, water's live to the meter. And you've got a clause from 2001 that says they can't do selective shutoff," Jordan added. Luis tapped the paragraph. "This clause is why the county signed off," he said. "They got their subdivision. County kept control of drinking water. That was the trade." Jordan nodded. "What's your move?" "We collect everything I said, not just my mail. Sam's neighbors every notice and email we can find. Then we file a formal complaint with the county water board. Luis nodded. If they really shut off service as punishment, he said they're violating the permit. County didn't give them that weapon. His words landed harder than the clink of dishes. Across the street, the post office door chime rang. Through the glass, I could see the bulletin board inside Cork crowded with HOA fines and urgent reminders. My phone buzzed on the table. Unknown local number. New voicemail 017. I put it on speaker. Mr. Alvarez Glenn's voice said smooth and rehearsed. This is President Holcomb following up. As I've stated, compliance restores service. Until then, your water will remain off. The message clicked off. For a second, nobody spoke. Offense escalation, Tom murmured. My mouth felt as dry as the taps back home. All right, I said, stacking the letters again. If they want to play this on paper, we'll play it on paper. Luis closed the binder with a soft thump, and this time he said, "We bring the county to the table." I read the sentence out loud just to hear how clean it still sounded after 22 years. Under no circumstances shall the association suspend potable water service as an enforcement tool. The kitchen went quiet. On the counter, the little desktop scanner chirped beep, beep, as it pulled the page through. The green light slid under Thomas Alvarez's old signature like a spotlight. Tom sat across from me at the table, elbows planted, eyes locked on the bottom line, Mayor Thomas Alvarez. June 2001. His jaw moved once like he was chewing on something that wouldn't break down. "I thought you were exaggerating," I said. "You weren't. I don't exaggerate in writing," he said, "especially not when I sign it." The kitchen table looked less like a place to eat and more like a command center. The blue Crestview utility permit, 2001 binder, lay open in the middle, that claws framed between two cold coffee mugs. HOA letters were spread out on one side like shell casings. My legal pad and laptop glowed on the other. On the laptop screen, Rachel Pierce watched us from her office downtown. Former county counsel, now private attorney. Dark blazer hair, pulled back, expression sharp enough to cut paper. "Send that page one more time," she said. "Full page. I want the seal and Tom's signature visible." I laid the sheet on the scanner glass and hit the button. The machine whined, light bar crawling under the words. Another beep. Another file saved. "It's in your inbox," I said. Rachel's eyes dropped. For 10 seconds, nobody in my kitchen moved. Even the fridge hum felt too loud. "All right," she said at last. "Clause is there exactly as you read it. County seal adoption date, mayor's signature. This isn't a draft. It's a binding condition on Crestview's utility connection." Luis sat at the end of the table, sleeves rolled, a thin gray folder in front of him. He'd come straight from the records room. "I pulled council minutes from March 2001, he said, "the night they bargained for the subdivision." He slid a stapled packet toward me. The print was a little crooked the way old scans always are, but the text was clear enough. Agenda Item 4B. Crestview Ridge Development Utilities Agreement. Discussion: HOA may not control potable water as an enforcement mechanism. Motion by Alvarez, seconded by Cole. Passed 5-0. "You really put it in black and white," I said. Tom took the minutes from my hands. His eyes moved down the page a little slower than they used to when he wore a badge and a sash, but still steady. His name showed up twice in the recount: councilman, then mayor. "We had another HOA down in the valley try to shut off a family's water over a backyard shed," he said quietly. "I wasn't going to let Crestview play that game, so we put it in stone." Rachel nodded. "And nobody's chiseled that stone," she said. "I checked the county code before this call. No amendment, no repeal. The 2001 permit stands as written. So, what Glenn did," I said, tagging my valve, cutting Sam's line, calling water a privilege, "is exactly what this agreement prohibits," she finished. "You're not fighting over taste or tone. You're pointing at a breach of a recorded condition. That's a different fight." Jordan, in the corner chair by the window, tapped his pen against a small notebook. The late sun caught the post office across the street. I could just make out the bulletin board through the glass, crowded with HOA fine notices and fluorescent envelopes. "County Water told you service is live to your meter," Jordan said. "You've got this clause, and now you've got minutes showing why it exists. You really want me to just sit here and listen, for now, I said. Yeah. I want you as a witness, not a headline. When we move, I don't want them whining about trial by newspaper. Rachel gave a quick approving nod. He's right. We start where it counts, she said. Formal complaint to the County Water Board. No speeches, no hashtags, just documents. She looked straight into the camera. For a second, it felt like she was in the room with us. You're the owner, Mark, she said. The complaint needs your name on the line. I'll draft it. You sign it. Luis backs the exhibits from the archive. Tom confirms the history. My tongue felt like cotton. What do you want in the complaint, I asked. Only what we can prove, she said. Date you got home. The HOA water suspension notice. Filed 03:17 p.m. On your door, the orange tag on your valve. County's confirmation that your account is current and water is active to the meter. Sam's shutoff, same pattern. Glenn's emails tying service to compliance. Then, this clause, this permit, and these minutes. She tapped her keyboard. We label each one as an exhibit. A through, however many we need. Luis nodded. I'll certify the minutes from the county archive, he said. Chain of custody scan logs, file path. No one can say you cooked these up in your kitchen. Tom still hadn't looked away from his old signature. It sat there on the page, younger and bolder than he looked now. You okay? I asked him. He gave one short nod. I signed this to stop exactly what they're doing, he said. If the county still has a spine, this should still mean something. An email alert pinged on my laptop. Drafts in your inbox, Rachel said. I opened it. Clean paragraphs. Dates, addresses. See Exhibit A, see Exhibit B. No adjectives, no curse words. Just the skeleton of what had happened. This reads pretty dry, I said. Dry is what survives, she answered. Anger belongs around your table. Paper belongs in their file room. I read it twice every line. Then I reached for the pen Tom had used on half the documents in this town. My name looked small under the signature line, but when the ink hit the page, I felt something shift inside me like a valve turning the other way. Rachel gave a thin smile. We've got solid legal footing, she said. I'll file with the board clerk this afternoon. Outside, a mail truck rattled past. A second later, the metal flap on our roadside box clanged loud enough to make us all look up. Tires crunched on gravel, then faded. Tom left the table, came back with a fresh white envelope in his hand. Crestview Ridge. HOA logo in the corner. No stamp. Hand-delivered. He slid it to me. I tore it open and read, due to ongoing non-compliance, the association will be conducting increased enforcement checks on your property. You are advised to bring all aspects into conformity to avoid further consequences. Expect increased enforcement checks. Glenn Holcomb, President. I set the letter down right beside the open binder, the clause still visible, under no circumstances. They're doubling down, I said quietly, and they still have no idea we just pulled the one clause they forgot. The certified letter came in a stiff white envelope green card stapled to the front like a badge. Tom handed it to me in the garage. Certified from Crestview, he said. Figured you'd want to open it where the tools are. The garage smelled like oil dust and hot neon. The old transformer over the workbench hummed a steady hum, a cheap soundtrack for paperwork war. Every inch of the bench was covered HOA letters, printed emails, the 2001 permit copy under a sheet of plastic. I slit the envelope with a utility knife and unfolded the letter. Failure to comply will result in extended suspension of services, it read. The board reserves the right to maintain such suspension until violations have been corrected to its satisfaction. Extended suspension, I repeated. They're not even pretending this is about conservation anymore. Tom rubbed his jaw. They're doubling the bet, he said, with the county watching. I set the letter down next to the binder, making sure the clause about no suspension was still visible. HOA cut off our water, I said more to myself than to him. So the county will have to look into this. They don't have a choice anymore. My phone buzzed on the workbench. New email from the County Water Board. Subject agenda. Public hearing. I opened the PDF. My eyes went straight to the middle of the page. Item 4B. Crestview Utility Permit Complaint. Alvarez VT Crestview. Ridge. HOA. Foreshadow. Just turned into schedule, I said. Item 4B is official. Tom leaned over my shoulder, the neon light washing his face in pale blue. Once it's on the agenda, it's in the record, he said. They can't pretend they never heard about it. The side door creaked open. Luis backed in with a cardboard box full of files. Jordan followed with his camera bag slung over one shoulder. A minute later, Rachel appeared on my laptop screen, propped up against an old toolbox. "Nice war room," she said. "Reminds me of the code compliance raids minus the code inspector." "Your video's clear," I said. "Your audio might have competition from the neon." The ballast groaned on cue. Rachel smiled once. "All right," she said. "Show me what we've got since the complaint." I picked up my phone and flipped to the camera roll. Photo after photo, the bright orange tag on my valve. The HOA water suspension notice. Filed 03:17 p.m. On my door, Sam's tag. Sam's notices kitchen sink open and dry. I held the screen up to the webcam. "We've got timestamps for all of these," I said. "Geotagged same-day county says our lines are live." Rachel jotted notes. "Good," she said. "We'll mark them as Exhibit C series." Luis set the box on an empty patch of concrete and popped it open. "These are Sam's letters," he said, "plus 3 more owners I talked to. Same pattern. Minor violations escalating fines." Then he flipped one open water suspension notice. Jordan snapped a quick shot of the stack, then lowered the camera. "I talked to Sam on recorded audio," he said. "He repeats Glenn's line about water's a privilege. You want that for the board?" Rachel nodded. "We do. Short clip, no editorial. Just his words and Glenn's." Tom tapped the binder with the back of his knuckles. "What about this?" he asked. "You going to wave my old title around or just the clause?" "Just the clause and the context." Rachel said, "We're not playing politics, we're playing terms. You'll be there as Tom Alvarez, former mayor, to explain why the county insisted on that protection." My laptop pinged again. Jordan pulled his own phone out at the same time. "Hang on," he said. "I just got something weird from a Crestview board contact." He scrolled, then his eyebrows went up. "Leaked email," he said. "Unofficial, but—" "Listen to this." He read, "If the board sides with them, we lose our leverage. We cannot let Water Board undermine our enforcement, or every other rule becomes optional." He looked up. "Sent from a board member to Glenn," he added. "CC'd 2 others, time-stamped last night." Rachel's eyes sharpened. "Forward that to me," she said. "We don't lead with it, but if they claim this is about safety or conservation, that line goes in front of the clerk." Luis whistled low. "They're not talking about drought," he said. "They're talking about leverage." Tom's hand closed into a fist on the workbench, then loosened. "They know they're using water as a club," he said, "and they're scared of losing it." The neon hummed steady. The garage suddenly felt colder. "Okay," Rachel said. "Here's how hearing day goes." She held up one finger. "Mark you open. Plain language. You describe coming home the notice the Dry Taps County's confirmation. No speeches, just what happened." "Got it," I said. She held up a second finger. "Tom, you're next. You explain the 2001 permit. Why the clause exists, what Crestview agreed to in exchange for their development. You are not the angry dad. You are the guy who remembers why this deal was written." Tom nodded once. "Luis," she went on, "you authenticate the minutes and any records you pulled. Chain of custody archive sources. Keep it dull. Dull looks honest." Luis smirked. "I was born for dull," he said. "Jordan," she said, "you stay in the audience with your notebook. No camera in their faces, no live posting. If they try to spin this later, your notes become the memory." He scribbled something. "And if they ask why I'm there, because you live here," Rachel said, "and because the bulletin board at the post office has had more orange envelopes than community events for 6 months." The garage door rattled slightly in the wind. Papers shifted on the workbench. For a second, nobody said anything. It settled on all of us at once. HOA wasn't confused. They were calculated. They knew exactly what they were doing with that valve and what they stood to lose if the board told them to back off. They know they're wrong, I said quietly. That's why they're leaning on leverage. Exactly, Rachel said. And that's why we stay calm and let them say it out loud in the wrong room. Another email pinged into my inbox. This one from a county address I recognized. Subject Item 4B. Scheduling. Crestview Utility Permit Complaint. I opened it, reading fast. Item 4B has been scheduled for public hearing before the Pine Mesa County Water Board. All parties are required to appear. Supporting documentation must be submitted no later than 4:00 p.m. on the business day prior. I looked up at the others. It's on, I said. County just told everyone, show up. The neon hummed overhead a little louder than before, like the house itself understood that pressure was about to move. The hearing room at the Pine Mesa County building was too bright and too cold, like they were trying to bleach the heat out of the desert. Rows of metal chairs lined the floor legs, scraping as people settled. The projector on the side wall hummed a low, steady tone. At the front, 3 microphones sat on a long table. One of them clicked every time someone adjusted the stem. The board members filed in, took their seats, and shuffled their folders. On the right side of the room, Glenn sat in a navy blazer next to a man in a sharper suit, the HOA attorney. The lawyer's tie matched the Crestview logo. Glenn didn't look at me. He stared straight ahead at the board like this was just another agenda item to be managed away. Rachel leaned close to my shoulder. Remember, she said softly, we're not here to perform. We're here to make the record undeniable. Luis sat behind us minutes from 2001 in a clear folder. He tapped it once with the back of his pen. If they deny the history, he murmured, this drops like a curtain. Tom was on my other side wearing the old county pin I'd never seen him take out in years. He looked smaller under the fluorescent lights, but his eyes were sharp, tracking every movement up front. The board chair, a woman with gray hair pulled into a low knot, adjusted her mic. Item 4B, she read. Crestview Utility Permit Complaint. Alvarez versus Crestview Ridge, Homeowners Association. We're here to hear testimony regarding alleged suspension of potable water service as an enforcement tool. Her words echoed slightly off the cinderblock walls. She looked to the right. Counsel for Crestview, you may begin. The HOA attorney stood, buttoned his jacket, and stepped to the mic. It clicked as he pulled it closer. Madam Chair, members of the board. He began, voice smooth and practiced. Crestview Ridge faces the same conditions as every community in this valley. Record drought, failing aquifers. We have been enforcing drought compliance measures in good faith to protect limited resources. Any temporary interruptions in service were part of a broader conservation plan approved by our membership. He spread his hands like the whole room should sympathize. We are not villains, he said. We're volunteers trying to keep a community viable in a very dry decade. Rachel wrote something in her notebook but didn't look up. The chair turned to us. Mr. Alvarez, she said you filed the complaint. You may proceed. My mouth felt dry, but not from the air. I stood, walked to the microphone, and adjusted it until I heard the click. My name is Mark Alvarez, I said. I live on Ridgeline Drive in Crestview Ridge. When I came home from working overseas, there was a notice taped to my door that said, HOA Water Suspension Notice, filed 03:17 p.m. I let the time hang for a beat. I went inside, I continued. Every tap in my house was dry. The master valve had an orange tag with the Crestview logo on it. No county tag, no yellow, no serial number, just the HOA. I glanced at the board members, then at the attorney. I called County Water, I said. They told me my account was current and that water was live to my meter. They did not order a shutoff. They did not authorize a shutoff. The only thing between County Water and my faucets was that HOA tag. The board chair nodded. And was this an isolated incident? No, ma'am, I said. My neighbor Sam's water was cut. Same tag, same notice. Other residents got the same treatment. We have photos and letters. I stepped back so Rachel could rise. She didn't bother with the mic at first. She handed the clerk a packet instead. "Madam Chair," she said, "Exhibit A is the 2001 Crestview Utility Permit. Exhibit B is the clause highlighted in that permit. Exhibit C is a series of photos showing HOA-branded tags on residential valves while county service remained active. Exhibit D is a letter from the county confirming no shutoff orders were issued." The clerk placed Exhibit A on the projector. The screen flickered, then resolved into the familiar text. Rachel walked to the screen and pointed fingertip just under the line. "Here," she said. This was negotiated as a condition of connecting Crestview to the county system. The board members leaned forward. She read, "Under no circumstances shall the association suspend potable water service as an enforcement tool for covenant or bylaw compliance." The HOA attorney shifted in his seat. Rachel lowered her hand. "The association agreed to this," she said. "In exchange for county approval, they promised not to do the very thing they are now calling drought enforcement." The board chair looked at Glenn. "Mr. Holcomb," she said, "do you dispute the existence of this clause?" The attorney stepped up fast. "We don't dispute that older language exists," he said. "But conditions have changed significantly since 2001. Extreme drought has forced communities to take drastic measures. Our actions were part of a comprehensive drought management plan, not punishment." Rachel didn't move. "We have Glenn's emails," she said calmly, stating that if residents feel a few dry days, they'll fall in line, and that we lose leverage if the board sides with them. That isn't drought management. That's using water as a weapon to force covenant compliance. The room shifted. Chairs creaked. Someone in the back muttered, "That's exactly what they did to us." The board chair held up a hand for quiet. She nodded at Luis. "You're with County Records." "Yes, ma'am," he said, coming to the mic. "Luis Ortega, Records Clerk. I pulled the council minutes from March 2001. In those minutes, you'll see that the clause was debated specifically because another HOA attempted shutoff as punishment. The county's condition that Crestview never do that is why the permit was approved." He handed the minutes to the clerk. The projector flashed again, showing Agenda Item 4B, Crestview Ridge Development Utilities Agreement. "Motion HOA may not control potable water as enforcement mechanism." Passed 5-0. The HOA attorney cleared his throat. "These are historic discussions," he said. "Board members change conditions, evolve. It's unreasonable to hold a volunteer association to deal terms from—" The board chair cut him off gently. "Tell me plainly," she said. "Did Crestview Ridge order water shutoff at Mr. Alvarez's home while his county account was current?" He hesitated. Glenn finally spoke. "We authorized temporary suspensions." Glenn said, choosing each word carefully tied to non-compliance with community standards. "We believed we were acting within our authority given the drought." "So, yes," the chair said. "You shut off his water while he was paid up." Glenn swallowed. "We temporarily interrupted service, yes." Jordan's pen scratched fast in the back row. Another board member, an older man with a sun-creased face, tapped the projected clause with his pen. "This language didn't write itself," he said. "Someone put it there for a reason." His gaze moved from the screen to our table. "Who drafted this condition?" he asked. "Who wrote this clause?" Silence scraped across the room like a chair leg. Next to me, Tom stood up slowly. He stepped to the microphone, hand resting briefly on the back of my chair as he passed. "I did," he said. Tom set the council minutes on the lectern like evidence. "This clause exists," he said into the mic, "because an HOA once tried the same stunt." The clerk threw the minutes onto the screen. "March 2001, Tom said. Item 4B, Crestview Ridge Development Utilities Agreement." He pointed halfway down the page. "Back then, an HOA in River Bend cut a family's water over a storage shed," he said. "This county decided that would not happen here, so we wrote this." He read, "HOA may not control potable water as an enforcement mechanism. Under no circumstances shall the association suspend potable water service as an enforcement tool for covenant or bylaw compliance." Tom looked from the text to Glenn. That isn't commentary, he said. It's a condition. Crestview got its subdivision because it accepted that limit. You don't get to forget it when it's inconvenient. The HOA attorney shifted. Glenn stared at the table. Tom stepped back. The board chair nodded and turned to Rachel. Ms. Pierce. Rachel stood red-tabbed packet in one hand, remote in the other. Madam Chair, she said you've heard why the clause exists. Now, I'll show how Crestview treated water anyway. She clicked. The screen filled with a photo of my master valve. An orange Crestview tag hung off it. This is Mr. Alvarez's valve, she said. That day, his county account was current and service was active to the meter. There is no county shutoff order. The only thing between county water and his tap is an HOA tag. Click, Sam's valve. Same tag. This is his neighbor's. Same pattern. Paid accounts. No county orders. Only Crestview hardware cutting off drinking water. Click. A blown-up email line replaced the photos. If residents feel a few dry days, they'll fall in line. Rachel let the board read it. This isn't, we must hit a usage target, she said. It's, let them feel dry days until they obey. That's not drought management. That's leverage. The HOA lawyer came to the mic. These messages are taken out of context, he said. The board was discussing how to encourage compliance with drought rules. Then why talk about falling in line instead of meeting usage? Rachel asked. Your permit forbids using water as an enforcement tool. She clicked again. If the board sides with them, we lose our leverage. A sun-creased board member leaned to his mic. Mr. Holcomb, did you write these? He asked. Glenn cleared his throat. Yes, he said. But we were under extreme drought pressure. Our intent was to keep the neighborhood in line with, there's that phrase again the member cut in line. He tapped the clause on the screen. The permit you signed says you don't get to use water for that. Rachel met my eye and gave a quick nod. I walked to the lectern with 3 photos and set them down my valve tag. Sam's tag, a faucet wide open over a dry sink. This is what it looked like on our side, I said. No county order, no hearing, just dry taps and messages from the HOA saying, you'll get water back when you comply. I don't object to drought rules, I said. I object to neighbors turning basic water into a stick. That isn't conservation, that's control. The room went quiet. The board chair looked down the line at her colleagues, then spoke. Based on the permit language, the 2001 minutes, and today's testimony, she said this board finds that Crestview Ridge Homeowners Association exceeded its authority under the 2001 utility permit by suspending potable water service as an enforcement tool. Behind us, somebody whispered. Finally, someone fought back. Rachel stepped forward with the red-tabbed packet. Madam Chair, she said we've drafted an order consistent with that finding removal of Crestview's authority over water shutoffs and civil penalties tied to each day of improper suspension. The chair read in silence, then looked up. This board terminates Crestview Ridge HOA's authority under its utility permit to alter, suspend, or condition potable water service, she said. Control of service remains solely with Pine Mesa County Utilities. In addition, she went on Crestview Ridge. HOA will be fined for every day of drought in which they illegally shut off service to paying residents retroactive to the first documented suspension. A murmur rolled through the chairs. Someone repeated it louder. Finally, someone fought back. I stayed at the lectern. The county just turned off their leverage, I said. They terminated Crestview's utility permit privilege, and now every dry day they gave us is a day they'll pay for. The county truck rolled up slow tires, crunching the gravel like it owned the road in a way the HOA never would. 2 guys in county water shirts hopped out. One was younger sleeves rolled clipboard tucked under his arm. The other moved like he'd been lifting valves for 30 years. Morning, the older one said, stepping into my yard. We got orders on Crestview. He walked straight to the master valve at the side of the house. The orange HOA tag still hung there, faded but smug. He flicked it with a finger. That's theirs. Yeah, I said. That's them. He pulled a pair of bolt cutters off his belt, lined up the jaws, and snipped. The plastic tag dropped into his hand. He held it up for a second, then slipped it into a clear evidence bag. From now on, he said, snapping the seal, only county touches this valve. Behind me, Tom made a small satisfied sound that might have been a laugh if he were younger. The crewman twisted the main slowly. The metal squeaked, then gave. Somewhere in the lines under the house I heard the low rush of water pushing its way back through pipes that had been too quiet for too long. Inside, Sam's boy shouted from the kitchen, "Dad, it's running." A second later, my kitchen window filled with the sound I'd been waiting on since the day I saw that notice water hitting stainless steel, steady and clean. They moved from house to house. Sam's place, Mrs. Hendrick's bungalow, the duplex at the corner. At every stop, the same ritual cut the HOA tag bag and opened the valve. Neighbors drifted out like they'd heard a siren only they could recognize. Folding chairs appeared on my patch of yard. Somebody rolled over a rusted grill from 2 doors down and coaxed charcoal into flame. The air smelled like lighter fluid and relief. Jordan showed up with his notepad, no camera this time, just watching. "You'd think it was a block party," he said, taking in the line of coolers and paper plates forming on my folding table. "In a way it is," I said. "First day, in weeks we know the water won't just cut out because somebody doesn't like a trash can." Tom sat in one of the chairs, hat tilted back, sipping iced tea. Sweat beaded at his temples. The thermometer nailed to the fence read 96. The heat looked honest today. Sam crossed over from his yard, hair still damp, where he'd thrown water on his face just because he could. "We thought no one would stand up to them," he said, gripping my arm. "Most of us just paid the fines and prayed they'd look away." "They counted on that," I said. "Once you let them weaponize water, everything follows. Trash cans, mailboxes, curtains, you name it." He shook his head. I kept telling myself, it's just how things are now. "That's how they win," Tom called from his chair. "You get used to something that never should have started." The county crew finished the last valve on the block and circled back. The younger tech wiped his hands on his jeans. "Board's order says we take control of every shutoff point," he said. "No more HOA tags, no more temporary suspensions. If someone's late or tampering it, comes from us, not a neighborhood committee." I nodded. "You'll get no argument here." He smiled. "You'd be surprised how many HOAs argued." Someone turned up a small radio on the porch. Static fizzled, then cleared. "Pine Mesa County Water Board confirms termination of Crestview Ridge HOA's utility permit authority," the announcer said. "The board is preparing fines for each documented day of improper shutoff during declared drought conditions." A spokesperson says penalties could reach significant levels given the number of affected homes. A cheer went up from the cluster of neighbors. It wasn't loud, not stadium loud, just real. Like the kind of sound you make when something inside your chest finally loosens. "Did you hear that?" Mrs. Hendricks asked, clutching her plastic cup. "They're not just telling them to stop, they're making them pay." Jordan scribbled in his notebook. "Penalties are still being calculated," he said. "But when that number hits the bulletin board, Crestvew's going to feel it." I watched water bead on the side of a plastic pitcher as someone poured more tea. The ice clinked a small, clean sound. "Funny," Sam said. "They kept telling us water was a privilege." "Still is," I said. "But not theirs to ration." Across the yard, kids ran through a sprinkler someone had dragged out shrieking every time the spray hit them. A week ago, that would have been grounds for another orange envelope. Today, it just looked like a normal summer afternoon in Arizona. The older county tech walked past Tom and paused. "You the Alvarez that signed that permit back in '01? He asked. Tom nodded once. "Guilty." The tech stuck out his hand. "Glad you did," he said. "Made today a lot simpler." Tom shook his hand, grip firm but slow. "Paper doesn't mean much," he said, "until someone decides to stand on it." The tech smiled. "Looks like someone did," he said, nodding toward me. He headed back to the truck. They pulled away, leaving the fresh boot prints near every valve. The radio crackled again behind us. County officials say enforcement of the fines will send a clear message to other associations considering similar actions. Back at the grill, someone flipped burgers. The smell mingled with the wet dust scent that rides up when dry yards finally get a little water. Neighbors talked in low voices about meetings, elections, resignations. Nobody sounded scared of Glenn anymore. Mostly, they sounded tired of him. I took it all in the running faucets, the kids in the sprinkler, the empty spot where the HOA tag used to hang. I turned to Tom. He met my eyes and gave a slow, deliberate nod. Justice wasn't finished, but it was moving, and for once it was moving in our direction. The hose hissed when I opened the valve, just a thin, sharp breath at first. Then the steady rush came through, clean and certain, curling across the yard in a long arc of cold water. After weeks of silence, the sound felt like the ground remembering itself. It was late afternoon on Pine Mesa. The sun was dropping behind the ridgeline, casting long strips of gold across the porch. Tom sat beside me in the old rocker boots, crossed at the ankles, iced tea, sweating on the rail. The flagpole near the driveway bent a little from too many monsoons rattled whenever the breeze caught it. From the radio in the window, a clipped voice read off the evening bulletin. The County Water Board confirms fines applied for every documented day of HOA drought shutoff. Tom reached forward and nudged the volume down. They're going to repeat that every hour, he said. I don't mind hearing it, I said. Not after everything. The hose settled into a softer rhythm, water pattering against the dry patch near the mesquite. For the first time since June, the yard smelled alive. Wet dust, sun-warmed stone, and something oddly sweet coming off the wood fence. Tom leaned back the chair, creaking. He didn't say anything at first, just watched the water sweep across the grass and pool in the low spots like he was tracing every inch of what had been taken from us. I wrote that clause in 01, he finally said. His voice was low, a little rough. The one about no HOA being allowed to suspend potable water service for enforcement. I nodded. Luis read it again this morning. Half the neighborhood knows it by heart now. Tom's lips twitched into something between a smile and an old memory. Back then, another HOA tried almost the same stunt, weaponized water over fence heights and paint colors. Folks were too scared to push back. I put the clause in the permit so no one else would deal with that mess. You think they ever read it? I asked. Oh, they read it, he said. They just thought nobody would ever use it. The hose sputtered once, then settled again. I moved it a few feet to the left, letting the spray fan out across the cracked soil. I didn't think I'd be alive to see it come into play, Tom said. Funny how this place circles back. I sat down next to him, setting the hose handle so it could keep running without me holding it. Tom, I said that clause didn't just help us. It stopped them cold. He looked over, eyes tired but clearer than I'd seen in months. Paper only matters when someone decides to stand on it, he said. I took a long drink of iced tea, letting the cold bite in the heat. The county's ruling still felt unreal. Termination of Crestview's utility authority fines for each day they'd shut us off public record for everyone to see. No backroom deal, no quiet wrist slap. This whole thing, I said, I kept thinking someone smarter or louder or more experienced would take it on. But it just came down to reading the rule they ignored. And saying it out loud at the right time, Tom added, most folks never do that part. The radio clicked to the next segment, some local weather report, but neither of us listened. The porch had gone quiet in the way only Arizona evenings can, heat-lifting cicadas, slow neighbors finally calm enough to stay inside instead of gathering in worried clusters along the street. I watched the hose sweep another pass. The water shimmered in the low sun, catching orange light like a thin ribbon. Say it, Tom said. What? The whole thing, he said. Say it the way you said it at the hearing. Clean. Straight. I leaned back, let my breath settle, and spoke exactly as I had in that cold, bright room. HOA cut off our water, so the county terminated their utility permit and fined them for every day of drought. Tom nodded once. That's the truth, he said. Nothing added, nothing taken away. The hose slipped in the dirt and sent a crooked stream across the porch steps. I let it run. It felt right for the yard to drink more than it needed just this once. Neighbors weren't out tonight. No commotion, no meeting flyers, no warnings taped to mailboxes. Pine Mesa finally felt like a place where doors could stay closed because trouble wasn't prowling through anymore. I set the hose aside, water still trickling. The ground soaked it up with a quiet that felt almost grateful. Then I said the words that had carried through the valley, the ones folks whispered at the diner early this morning when the fines hit the county website. Finally, someone fought back. Tom didn't need to nod this time. The quiet did that for him. The last of the daylight hit the posted county order on my porch, the silver seal catching a sharp glint as the hose hummed steadily in the yard. Watching that water run, I finally understood that boundaries don't hold unless someone stands on them. The board's ruling didn't just fix a shutoff, it reminded us that due process still works when we push back together one documented notice at a time. Justice isn't loud, it's steady. Finally, someone fought back. Share your HOA story below your map might help someone redraw theirs.